I just hit record, just so y'all know. Um, what about you, Jennifer?
Um, I read another chapter or two or three, and I'm I'm doing okay. And if nothing else is going great, I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
What book are you reading, Jennifer?
We're actually gonna, I think, are you wanting me to go into chapter two?
Go chapter 2, girl. He's
We're
doing
reading,
the best version of you.
it's by Josh Coate.
Oh,
I'm gonna mute myself out and stop my video so it's all about.
Okay. So the second chapter is head belief versus heart belief. And I know that's hard for a lot of us because we want to believe with our heart. And so he says, one of the things I learned in life coaching was that our beliefs drive our behavior. Will Durant said in his book, The Story of Philosophy, when discussing the ideas of Aristotle, we are what we repeatedly do. And this is a great quote, but it's not the full truth. It's only a half truth. We are what we repeatedly do. Sorry, let me move my phone. It's sitting on this little chair pillow. We are what we repeatedly do, but we repeatedly do what we really believe on the inside. People spend billions of dollars every year trying to change their health by trying to find a better system, a way to be more motivated, or a different diet. But the reality is, until someone believes they can lose weight, no attempt to change their behavior will be very successful. In the same way, people are spending billions of dollars every year on business coaching, social media advice, websites, and lead generation, all trying to find the right system that will finally give them the breakthrough they need in their business, that they want in their business. Because they don't understand this very simple principle, they find themselves paying for training they don't use or sabotaging the whole process and then blaming others. Spending your time and energy trying to change your habits can work, but only if you have the willpower to force it. Some people do, most people don't. When you take the time to reprogram your beliefs, all of the sudden actions aren't very difficult. Posting content on Instagram isn't as big of a challenge as when you believe with all your heart that it isn't going to lead. Hold on. Posting content on Instagram isn't as big a challenge when you believe with all your heart that it isn't going to lead you to success, even if each individual post falls flat and gets no engagement. Because putting all your energy into changing your habits is always most effective when it's combined with working on your beliefs. I've played sports my entire life. I was never the best, but I was always one of the best because my dad coached me at a very young age and taught me to give everything I had. At the end of basically every practice and every sport I ever played was something called conditioning. This was usually around 30 minutes of running sprints, short runs at your fastest speed. One thing I still remember is just how crazy it was that I could always beat people who were faster than me. What most people would do was run as fast as they could for the first 5 to 10 minutes. But after they would start to slack off as they felt more tired. They would be running so fast they would slack off. I still don't know exactly where I learned this from, but I had a different mindset than they did. Maybe it was because I was the youngest in my family and always had to work twice as hard to keep up with my older brother, who was much bigger and stronger and faster than me. Maybe it was because my brother and me would play basketball as kids with the teenagers from our church and had to work harder to keep up. For whatever reason, I knew to run as fast as I possibly could, even if the initial 5 to 10 minutes, even in after the initial 5 to 10 minutes. In fact, by the time the 25 to 30 minutes came around, I would be outrunning people by as much as 5 to 10 yards. An analogy that might make more sense to you is the key analogy, because I have a lot of women in my training groups. I have a good time making fun of myself and making men the butt of a lot of my jokes. As a man, if I can't find my keys, I look in two places the keys are supposed to be. But when I can't find them, my response is, babe, I can't find my keys. I looked everywhere. When my wife Jenny looks for the keys, she doesn't just look in two places they're supposed to be. She's smart enough to know that they didn't walk away, so they have to be somewhere. So she looks until she finds the keys. When it comes to success in any area of your life, you have to approach it like a woman looking for the keys. You can't just look in a few places and say you tried everything. You have to look until you find it. In other words, success starts with the decision to go until you succeed. Here's the problem. Your subconscious mind is looking for a way to stay safe. Inside, you know exactly what kind of work it will take to become the person you need to become to get to what you really. So you're looking for an out. The hardest part of success in your business or any other area of life will be fighting the inner battle of wanting to give up. What makes it even harder is the fact that battle happening on the inside can make it feel like you are being untrue to yourself. It's one thing to go against friends and family, which can also be hard, but it's an entirely different thing to go against what feels like your own. The first thing you need to know about this battle is that you are not fighting against your true self. You are only fighting against your old self. If you're writing anything down, remember that. You're not fighting against your true self. You're fighting against your old self. What I'm about to teach you is something that should be taught in every school in the world, but unfortunately was only taught to me when I went through life coach training. I would say 99% of people go through life not even understanding their own psychological makeup, and that is what makes life hard. Unconscious living. The reality is everything you do in life that goes on, that goes against your old self will make you feel icky, because it feels like you're trying to fake your way into something new. And the constant saying of fake it till you make it isn't helping anyone. If you convince yourself that you have to fake it to get what you want in life, you will almost always choose to quit instead. None of us want to be fake. And I know that I've heard that before, fake it till you make it. And it doesn't work. It says, I believe that we are a three-part being. We are a spirit or heart and soul. We have a mind and we have a body. All three incredibly important, but not knowing their purpose can be very difficult. I believe in an infinite creator. I grew up calling it God, but also know that many people call this higher power, universe, or spirit, among other names. I couldn't care less what you choose to call it. So for the sake of including everyone, I like the name Infinite Intelligence, adopted from my favorite book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I believe that our spirit or heart, as I will refer to it moving forward, is the infinite part of us that has always been and will always be. I don't pretend to know where it was before this life or where it's going after. We can have a debate somewhere else, but I do believe that the part of us that is constant contact with our Creator. I believe there's a constant flow of light, energy, wisdom, and creativity that we can draw on at any time if we just know how to access it. We'll get into that in a minute. Our mind is one of the most misunderstood parts of this process. I believe it was given to us by our Creator as a tool to use. But when you don't know how to use a powerful machine, it can do a lot of harm, a lot more harm than good. Our mind has a few different parts to it. I consider myself a lifelong learner. So do I. So I will still have a lot of learning to do on this subject, but I want to break down what I do know that has helped me. The subconscious mind is like a computer. It has a hard drive where you can store infinite thoughts, experiences, and past feelings. Its main job is to protect and perform. It is designed to protect you from possible threats and perform tasks on autopilot that no longer need your attention. If you were like a caveman, these two purposes would actually go hand in hand. If you saw a saber-tooth tiger for the first time, your subconscious mind would first send an alert that says, we don't know what this is, so we need to assume it's dangerous. The second signal coming less than a split second later would say, then we need to get the hell out of here, which would put you in a dead sprint to the nearest cave. This is where we get the term fight or flight. Here's the biggest problem with our subconscious mind. It is designed for the age the most of us no longer live in. It is designed to keep you safe from actual threats, but it is not designed to process whether new things actually are a threat or not. In other words, every time you learn something new, immediate signal that will try to get you to run and hide. If you're living in an industrial country where there are no saber-toothed tigers or wild animals roaming the streets, this part of you isn't needed as much as it once was. One of the key elements on your road to success will be how much time are you willing to spend upgrading this computer? Like a phone or computer, you run a new program on an old software or hardware. This book is going to serve as a manual on how to upgrade your software, but you still have to be willing to follow the instructions and see it through. I like to use a smoke detector example of how our subconscious mind works. Have you ever had a smoke detector go off at your house only to find out it was a false alarm? I would be willing to bet that for most people reading this, the alarm was false 10 times more than it was legit. None of you is stupid enough to grab all your belongings, sprint out the door, and jump into the street every time your smoke detector goes off. The first thing you do is, when the smoke detector goes off, is stop what you're doing. Then you go around, try to see what the problem is. Then, if it's a false alarm, you try to put out the smoke, make the alarm, and then that would never run into the street, but you would never try to go about your day turning without turning the alarm off.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. It's usually me cooking bacon.
I was going to say, it's usually me doing popcorn. But anyway. But you wouldn't just leave the alarm going. That would make any normal person to try to continue cooking, eating, relaxing, or going to bed with the alarm still going off. And yet, what most people are trying to do with their goals, they are trying to fight through their internal alarm, which just creates more friction and more frustration that leads to thoughts of feeling fake. I grew up in a very religious house where our church services were incredibly charismatic. We thought the way to reach God was to have as emotional of an experience as possible. When everyone could feel something, we like to say that it was the presence of God. While there might be some truth to this, it was also an incredibly dangerous thing to do with our emotions. Knowing what I know now about our mind and emotions, what we were actually doing was training ourselves to believe that feelings equaled God. No feelings meant no God, and lots of feelings meant lots of God. This got me into a mental and emotional disaster in my teenage years when I decided to go all into this lifestyle and was determined to find God's will for my life. I thought I was seeking God, but really I was seeking emotions. I could hardly decide what to wear to school without trying to feel for some type of voice or nudge from God. It got so bad that I stopped doing anything that brought me joy because the most powerful feelings had happened to be negative and fear-based. As a result, my feelings, which I interpreted as God, told me to stop having fun, stop hanging out with people, and as a result, I had a mental breakdown without even knowing it. The biggest danger of being led by feelings is that feelings go up and down. They are never constant or steady, and the only way to success is to become someone who is constant and steady with your routine. The good news is that with time and the right tools, you can retrain your mind for performance towards something you really want. You see, your subconscious protects you, but as I also said, it automates your life by taking over tasks that no longer need attention. So how do we reprogram your mindset? Well, let's talk about our subconscious mind. Let's talk about how our subconscious mind got information in the first place. Our subconscious mind is storing place is a storing place for all of the things that have entered our conscious mind. Our conscious mind has gathered information from our five senses. While you're reading this book now, you are all at once feeling, tasting, smelling, seeing, and hearing. And all those experiences are collected as data about how the world works. This is why your environment can be dangerous. Someone who grows up surrounded by violence has trained their mind that the world is dangerous. It makes it 10 times harder to trust people and believe that it's better in a better life. So much energy is put into survival that dreaming of something better becomes very hard. This, by the way, is why all of us should be more open to the idea of supporting people who come from different backgrounds. Never assume that success is just as easy for someone else just because you have success. Just because they have access to the same internet as you. I'm going to repeat that. Never assume that success is as easy for someone else just because they have access to the same internet as you do. On one hand, you have to take ownership for where you are, but please don't judge others based on where they are. You have no idea what they had to go through to make it to where they are today. Over time, your beliefs begin to make up the repetitions and emotional experiences you have. If something happens over and over, such as violence, or your subconscious stores it away and performs it to you for you. If you are told over and over again that you are stupid, that's what it's going to hear. But we go with positivity. Positivity can be created through the same processes. If you repeat something positive over and over, or have an incredibly emotional positive experiences, it can penetrate your beliefs and create new ones that now perform positive things by default. This is one reason the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. People, baby, I'm on the phone. People who have established thoughts of wealth and opportunity pass those beliefs on to their children, and those who struggle with poverty pass those thoughts to their children. This becomes what we call generational curses. Please remember that this process is 100% possible for everyone to break these curses, but please don't assume that 30 years of beliefs will be unwritten in 30 days. So it's a 30-day. He says, if you are like me, retraining your mind, it can be a difficult task, but knowing that, talking about breaking a habit, people who say a habit can be formed in 30 days start to sound really silly when you understand how your mind works. I always teach my clients that you can change your habits in 30 days, but in order to change your life, you will have to continue those habits until they become new beliefs. So that is a big one right there. My highlighter broke, so I've got to look where my notes were from there on. Actually, we only have 5 minutes left.
That book, Atomic Habits, it talks about making 1 degree changes in your life. And if you add all those 1 degree changes together, it adds up to a large number of degrees. So
Right.
I do those daily affirmations. I started sending them to y'all because
Right.
I loved what it was doing for my mindset. So I started sending it to y'all because it's 2 minutes of your life every day. And it's such a good way to start the day off. Like, it literally, sometimes the day starts and it sucks. And then I listen to that and I'm like, it's gonna be okay. God's
Well,
got it. It's
I
gonna
want to finish this chapter next week because he does have the push method in it.
yes,
And so I am going to finish this chapter next week.
perfect. I wanted to talk about a couple of things. I've been reading this book called It's Not Meant to Be a Secret, God Wants to Talk to You. And the thing that I came upon today, like the chapter, I read a chapter every day. And the chapter I read today was all about being a blessing and a gift. And the scripture was 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 9. And he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will rather boast in my infirmities than the power of Christ may rest upon me. So I don't know if y'all have the same issues I do. Probably not. I'm just special. But I sometimes don't know what certain chapters of the Bible say. So I have a tendency to look up different translations of them. And one of my favorites right now is the New Amplified Version. So let's look up 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 9. In this, it says, but he has said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, which means my love and kindness and my mercy are more than enough, always available, regardless of the situation. For my power is being perfected and is completed and shows itself most effectively in your weakness. Therefore, I will more gladly boast in my weakness so that the power of Christ may completely enfold me and dwell in me. And what that made me think of is how sometimes you have to hit like rock bottom before you can be built back up. And I used to say that all the time in hairdressing. Like, I would go out to these trainings every 6 months in California. And I used to say that the guy that would teach our trainings would like break us down. And then by the end of the weekend, he had built us into new competent stylists so that we could go out into the world and teach the things we just learned. But it took like unlearning things we learned to learn a new way. So it was like the breakdown to build back up. And it reminds me of how sometimes people have to hit rock bottom to actually reach out to Christ and to see and to be able to see the difference he makes in their lives. And in the Courage is Calling book that I've been reading, this chapter was Don't Fear Decisions. And it was talking about like the Marshall Plan and the Cuban Missile Crisis and the kind of high pressure situations where weak men wilt and strong men shine. And It was saying that at the top, there are no easy choices. All are between evils, the consequences of which are hard to judge. And this is what scares people, making the wrong decision, screwing things up, the potential unintended consequence. And I think we think about that a lot more than we give like power to, I guess is what I'm looking for the word. I think we give that a lot more value because we have a tendency to get into analysis paralysis where we're thinking about everything that could go wrong and instead we're just thinking about the 3 or 4 things that could go right. So I look forward to hearing about what you have in store for us next week, Jennifer. And I just wanted to tell y'all that again, the 2 books I'm reading right now, Courage is Calling, and It's Not Meant to Be a Secret, pretty much directly coincided. And I'm reading like a chapter out of this a week and a chapter out of this a day. So this I'm going a lot quicker in, but I'm probably honestly gonna forever read a chapter out of this a day. Like it's already dog-eared, and this is my first read, like my first pass through. So I love y'all so much. I appreciate y'all for coming. And I'll see y'all next Tuesday. And I'll send the link for the big team meeting in the Supernova chat. Love y'all.
Love